Well, hello, this is me again, and I'm coming to you from Moscow, and it is August 15th here in Moscow. I'm not even sure now what time it is now. It has to be nearing midnight in Seattle area. And if you will encounter some kind of the audio or video difficulties, please, consider the fact that I am in essentially under the field conditions. So, and my laptop is trying to do whatever it can do now to provide a decent recording. And so here I am. And I want to start knowing that you guys, many of you really waited for me to kind of come up online after my travel. So here I am. And let's start with the most important things, which are, of course, are continuing to be the special military operation. And I want to start with this thing. Obviously, Mr. Shoigu, everybody knows who Mr. Shoigu is, and he talks to RT, he talks to not well, RT reports on it, and he spoke about this situation recently, well, a couple of days ago. And look at this headline. And you all remember that I wrote about this for 9 years, and he says that Russian defense minister questions quality of Western weaponry. Foreign arms supplied to Kiev have proven to be far from perfect amid the fighting in Ukraine. Sergei Shoigu said it was a couple of days ago. And what can I say? Obviously, the technological issue, the issue of the hardware, or what generally we know as the kind of fanboys masturbator, uh, who absolutely have some issues of I don't know, visual, audio, whatever, sensory orgasm just looking at those military toys. But of course, behind all those sexy appearances of the very many military equipment today lies the issue of the doctrine, lies the issue of the fundamental research and development, and essentially everything comes down to the tactical level of what kind of the weapon you have, how you use it, and how it affects then obviously the issue of the military organization and operations. And then it obviously goes into the strategic field. And seemingly, when you have a couple of the T90Ms, and certainly it could have some impact on the some specific very narrow sector of the operations, let's put it this way. It will be the tactical impact. But when you have 150 of them, suddenly you have a couple of the brigades, tank brigades, which really can wreak havoc on the some operational axis. And this is what we see. Ukraine, or the armed forces of Ukraine, or whatever was left from them, they are trying desperately to throw into some, or collect or aggregate some kind of the armor feast, so to speak. And it is impossible in the modern war. Well, it's possible, for example, against Iraq, obviously. It's possible against Afghanistan. You can absolutely, without impunity, to accumulate your, so to speak, the forces of the breakthrough, well, with the second echelon coming the forces of the exploitation. But today you cannot do that against such country as Russia. You will be, as I already stated, detected, you will be tracked, and you will be annihilated. And this is the instrumentarium. This is absolutely crazy on Russian side. Be them now very popular and Lancet drones, or rather loitering munitions, or be that Krasnopol. Smart munitions, smart shells, which yesterday one of the big hunches in Russian military industrial complex already stated we're going to increase the production of Krasnopol shells 4 times. And believe me, when Russia says that it's going to increase it 4 times, she will. I mean, and when you look at this and begin to compare to the performance of their equipment from the NATO countries, especially when it's actually not in the trivial numbers. If you look attentively at the sad story of the PAC-3, Patriot PAC-3 air defense system, the number of them have been already annihilated. And in accordance to the American Raytheon and other companies which supply and kind of assemble those Patriots, they're super duper. They are networked and can do a lot of things. Evidently, they can't. And of course, they can't against the modern weapon systems, which in 2018, when Mr. Putin, speaking to the Federal Assembly in March, announced the arrival of the hypersonic weapons in full force, as many people in the United States said, yeah, it's all, cartoons, it's all boutique weapons. Well, they're not boutique anymore. The use of the hypersonic weapons is the first in history. It is unprecedented in its scale, Kinzhals flying all over the place. And at some point of time, we might expect some Zircons starting to fly. So when you look at this, even considering the some issues which Russia has, I mean, Russia still has issues in terms of, for example, how to put it politely, straightening out some of the formations of, let's say, Black Sea Fleet. As you remember, with the situation with the amphibious landing ship, which was damaged by the drone. But other than that, when you look attentively, technologically, I just basically, and especially after speaking to some of my friends in St. Petersburg and Moscow, and as you might expect, the schedule here is absolutely crazy for me, and I'm constantly tired. So I already kind of reaffirmed my point of view, which I'm on record for many years now, and now I can absolutely clearly state that yes, United States lost the arms race. And when Mr. Shoigu says about the, well, pretty much, let's put it this way, dismal performance of the NATO equipment, he has a point. Because obviously, when you have technological domination, you have the escalation domination. Because you have equipment which not only qualitatively better, you have quantity which you can increase whatever numbers you need, and your industry will deliver. And that's what actually NATO and United States begin to feel or sense, and how it begin to sense with the scandalous results. And if we go now to the original of this, uh, uh, it is some kind of Norwegian news outlet. I don't know what it is. And believe me, I do not want to read Norwegian because Norwegian people will hate me for that. So I'm not going to kind of screw up the pronunciation. But here is the translation of this piece, which basically describes Ukrainian reaction after the chief of staff of Mr. Stoltenberg, who is obviously a puppet, but still, I mean, important puppet nonetheless. And he spoke about the fact that I believe that the solution may be that Ukraine gives up territory and receives a NATO membership in recurring advice Jensen in the debate under the direction of the Atlantic Committee. Okay, this is a screwed up but how to translate. Evidently, Norwegian is very difficult language to translate for the automatic or whatever the software translators. But point is very clear. So the NATO is in a panic mode. They understand that the war is lost, and the question now what Russia will do. And as I already stated, this is my point for now since the start of the special military operation. We don't know what General Staff thinks. We don't know what Putin says. But obviously, Ukraine was furious. All of what NATO de facto offers is to freeze the conflict. Russia is not going for that. And as Mr. Medvedev today stated very clearly, well, if you want to trade territories for, so to speak, peace, well, we might as well take Kiev and the rest of the Ukraine, and without obviously Western Ukraine, for which Poland is kind of honing its forces and trying to get it. Well, eventually it will, most likely. How it will be arranged, that's the totally different matter. And when you look at this, you kind of like begin to think that yeah, they got the message now. And obviously, the chief of staff of Stoltenberg obviously wasn't talking on own behalf. He or whatever she, I don't even understand who that person is, what gender. And this person was talking on behalf of NATO. And that there is an understanding that you know what, you cannot do nothing, literally nothing. And the question is not only you don't have forces, on the NATO part. You don't have technology which is fit for the modern battlefield. And that is why I constantly stress the fact that United States, we do not talk about Europe, which is essentially is subservient and will become the main recipient of the American military technology, but the United States lost the conventional arms race. It also lost the nuclear arms race, but that's beyond the point. And the fact is, Russia is not going to attack anybody. Russia doesn't need unnecessary territories. So, hey, if they want to talk, sure. But obviously, and you can quote me on that, the question will be primarily about Russia dictating the capitulation conditions or unconditional capitulation, maybe. So, but it will be capitulation nonetheless. And when you look at this, you understand how short, in terms of force, NATO is. But translating from the I was glad today. Obviously, there are now news circulating that Wall Street Journal says that the United States is considering military solution for the export of grain from Ukraine. We get this thing from Wall Street Journal, which is the neocon rag. Essentially, we know that Wall Street Journal is, and Washington. They report that Washington is exploring the possibility of military solution to protect ships exporting agricultural products from Ukraine through Danube ports. The U.S. media right. Well, and however, in the same report of Wall Street Journal, they also say that actually Pentagon reacted and said we don't have forces to do that. We cannot do anything to enforce it. And that's a good idea to say so because obviously it's true. And as I already stated, the escalation dominance, I don't know. I mean, if, of course, the United States or some people in Wall Street Journal and some bunch of the creeps who actually leaked that information to them and who want to start the World War III, hey, they are welcome, of course, but whatever force granted it will be granted the passage through Bosphorus and Dardanelles, but any force in the Black Sea is a fish in the barrel, and there is no weapon system currently on the U.S. Navy ships or any NATO Navy ships which can handle the salvo of, let's say, Onyx P-800 missiles, supersonic missiles with the range in excess of 700 kilometers. It's probably more like 800 kilometers, which covers not just the Black Sea, it covers pretty much the Sea of Marmara. And so if they want to try the Aegis, wanted Aegis. Everybody remembers what happened to the Patriots and the other NATO weapon systems. So there you go. And of course, Wall Street Journal pushes this agenda, pushes this idea that let's try. As I already stated, and I'm on the record, you cannot try. Well, you can try, but you will die. And that's the idea which Russians were translating for the last year and a half. And now, when you basically everything comes down to the last reserve, not reserves. There's some, I don't know, the probably a couple brigades left of the so-called Western training, NATO training, which actually probably much worse than if they would have been trained within Ukraine itself. So when you have this pretty much down to the, down to the bottom, so to speak, of the barrel. So what are you going to do? There, as Mr. Shoigu, as Mr. Putin are on record yesterday, especially on the international conference of the on the security, that yeah, Ukraine basically ran out of it, everything, pretty much. So now we begin to see the issue of the demolishing of the remnants of the armed forces of Ukraine, with Russia advancing in kilometers at Kupiansk operational access, and Zaporozhye is a slaughter. It continues to be a slaughter. So, and what is most important, many people uh, uh, kind of put forward this counter argument when I was talking about the Ukrainian losses, and especially when I was presenting the data from the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation about this horrendous butcher's bill from the starting from the June 8th of the armed forces of Ukraine. And already, even a week ago, if you remember, the total thing was somewhere in excess of, it's probably about 50,000 killed, and that is the issue, which I got the confirmation now when even Russian TV, starting from the REN TV, obviously Russians, when they hear the REN TV, they love because it is pretty much the same as the Ancient Aliens type, the series of the History Channel. But point is, even RAN TV, not to speak about the Russia more establishment type media, they specifically state, and it's now on record, they state that no, those numbers which are given, and believe me, I was smiling yesterday when hearing this, that that, for example, if you look at the 43,000 during June, those losses are KIAs only and only on the front lines. Without those losses, which are equal, if not larger, in the rear. So, and of course, not counting wounded the soldiers of the armed forces of Ukraine. So make your own conclusions about those losses. And again, we do not know the scale. We know this is horrendous scale of the losses of the armed forces in Ukraine in the immediate rear, so to speak, and in the deep rear. So, and that just makes my point, which many people will say, no, it's just, the killed and wounded. I understand. That sounds horrible. I mean, the butcher's bills is horrendous, but it is what it is. Now, what can I say more about Russia? And we were lucky to fly there no non-stop to Helsinki. It's the only summer months of flight which you can get from Seattle, and lucky for us, we got it. I mean, and it was actually half empty, which was delightful in terms of the leg room and things of this nature. But after the week of travel and staying with my friends and communicating with them in St. Petersburg and other places, and with all kinds of people of different walks of life today, but mostly former cadre officers. So I have some interesting things to talk to you, but because I'm doing this kind of in experimental mode today, and it is very difficult for me to really see how the systems operate, including the audio and including visual. So you will be getting a substandard type of the streams so far. So when I come back, obviously I will be back to my very advanced, so to speak, audio setting, including this wonderful condenser microphone I have and things of this nature. So, but you have to kind of, bear with me for now. Now, what can I say? Obviously, it's there in terms of the simple things. It's very difficult to get, obviously, your cards do not work, credit cards do not work in Russia. You have to constantly carry cash and try to exchange it. Obviously there is no problem with the exchanging most of the time, but for example, if your dollar bill, $100 bill has, for example, stamp of the American bank, you cannot do, for example, hotel exchange anymore. And they say, yeah, listen, just other dollars are fine, but this one you have to go to the major banks, such like as the Russian giants Sberbank or Alpha Bank and places like that, and you have to exchange them there. And there are some banks which actually asked us about in St. Petersburg, ask from us the tax ID number. I said, "What the hell are you talking about? Do you want my social security?" So stupid, absolutely stupid. But yeah, there are some places like that which also make those totally unreasonable demands. As per Russia, uh, I won't suggest the American exceptionalists and Europeans to get to Russian cities. They will be overwhelmed by the glitz, grandeur, cleanness, and orderly. The whole, it's difficult to explain. St. Petersburg doesn't sleep at all. I mean, it's literally doesn't sleep at all. For example, if you go to the some, especially famous Galleria, which is on the Vastania Square or Uprising Square near the Moscow railroad station. Everything works there 24/7. I mean, literally, shoe stores and the crowds. I cannot describe to you people. It's humanity on the move everywhere, and especially Moscow and St. Petersburg. It seems that. Russia adapted extremely well. Of course, now Russian central bank begins to defend ruble, and the situation with the volatility of the ruble had nothing to do with the sanctions or anything. It was obviously with the speculation, and everything is fine. Let me put it this way: everything is fine. The service is outstanding, especially in the hotels. And let me put it this way: we stayed in a lovely Finnish hotel in Helsinki, and I couldn't turn around in the shower. It's that small. I mean, literally, my wife couldn't turn around there. Well, you got go back to St. Petersburg or Moscow. I mean, Best Western in St. Petersburg we stayed in was outstanding. I mean, it was older building, obviously, but what a beautiful hotel. I mean, they made out of it. So the service is exceptional. People are cooperative, and in general, the mood is, how to put it politely, it's um, it's that of the very, very strangely manifested in very many things confidence. The stores, people ask me to do some store browsing, and listen, you have plenty of those things already on YouTube, so you don't have to believe me. But there are many Westerners who do those reviews of the Russian stores. Believe me, you do not want to show to European or American the just daily section alone of such places globus, okay? Because it will make people just feel absolutely inferior. This is incredible, okay? So doesn't mean that Russia doesn't have her problems. She does. And of course, when you look at the mega cities like St. Petersburg or Moscow, it's the traffic, of course. Yeah, Russians are so poor. You literally everything in cars. Everybody has a car or two. The issue with the parking, which is expensive, it's totally understandable. So, but generally, there is a confidence. There are some economic problems which have are being addressed, and now we know that actually Russia can absolutely ramp up things extremely fast. The economy have been completely, almost completely reformed and almost completely retooled, if you wish. And I'll be talking about this later, but this is my August 15th, if you wish, on the road video. So forgive me if it wouldn't be the quality in terms of the technical issues of sound and video, but it is what it is, guys. And so here it is for today. And as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee or two. And I will keep in touch, guys. And this is it for today. So have a nice whatever you are having, the day or maybe evening. I'm lost. And so I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.